natural. So
Okay, hello everyone. We just pressed record, so bear with us while we get ourselves set up here. I'm going to be presenting on one of our very new workshop programs, and we're just gonna jump right into it, me and my buddy Karina here. All right, so as you see here, this is the workshop supporting our children with diverse abilities. So this is just an introduction to what we're doing here. We're going to talk more about our agenda and what's coming up, but this introductory series is part 1 out of series 9. So we have multiple workshops upcoming, and we're just going to dive into what these workshops mean and what we're here to do to help you. And yeah, let's get started. Ashkadewaywen. So I want to just let you guys know a little bit about me. I'm Cody Atwood, pictured here on my left. And who am I, right? Because I'm a new face, unfamiliar, but I come from a small town in British Columbia known as Cranbrook, BC. My family is part of the Dnaagdawenmag Nation. My grandmother is an elder and she works on the reservation doing genealogy. So I think it's very interesting just to be able to, wrap up a little bit about me and where I come from and who I am and what my family is. And I always like to start with that. I like to start with who is my family? Because my family is an extension of who I am. And I think that's how we get to know each other, right? We always go into a new conversation and we're like, hey, like, who are you? Who are your parents? And yeah, we get to really know each other that way. So I think it's important to start with family. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's why I'm here today. I love family. I love love. And I love being able to help people, right? That's one of my passions. And that's kind of what got me into this. So I work at Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag, Child and Family Services. I was formerly a family support worker, but I have since transferred over to the role of autism support worker on the support services side. So I was originally in service and I made the switch, and I'm very happy to be presenting here with you today. Miigwech.
thank you, friend. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Karina Safi. I am the part of representative of CBHS today. So I'm a behavioral consultant from Center for Behavioral Science, or CBHS for short. This is a behavioral department of Mackenzie Health Hospital. So I'm being a very new addition to the team. I'll probably will be saying that every every workshop. But yeah, I joined this wonderful team in November and I'm very honored to be here. I think it's such an important project to work on. And it's a fantastic opportunity for non-Indigenous people to learn more about the culture and learn more of how to be culturally sensitive and, you know, providing the care from that length. And I guess I'll just make sure that everyone not confused about Lori Angus. She's not with us here today, but she's another co-facilitator. She's a behavioral consultant as well, and coordinator from CBHS. She's usually presenting with us during live workshops.
Yes, yes. We miss Lori, but here she is. She's here in spirit with us right now. I'm sure she's gonna start enjoying her long weekend. So here we are. So we're gonna skip over housekeeping today. But our agenda, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop into opening. I'm going to offer a song that was gifted to our agency. And I'm going to talk a little bit about smudging and different medicines that we commonly use in our smudging. Next, we're going to go into our agencies. We're going to talk about Dnaagdawenmag and we're going to talk about Mackenzie Health. And then we're going to pair those two together. So what are we doing as a partners? We're going to jump into two-eyed seeing, as that's a term that we are going to use frequently throughout these workshops. We're going to go into our EKK video. And then we're going to wrap into closing, just a few participant activities for you to think on and to bring away with you. So our smudge and song, I have my smudge bowl located right here. This is a shell. It was gifted to me by the agency. But before I light the smudge, I just have a couple things that I want to talk about. So these are our 4 sacred medicines. You see, I have them kind of in a bit of a graph connected to the medicine wheel. How do they connect to the medicine wheel? Well, tobacco is part of the East Quadrant, and it's a symbol of gratitude. So it's really used to open up communication with the spirit world, but also to invite guidance, right? It's a way to give our thanks. So you'll often find that when we're out, for example, on a spirit walk, we might come across some cedar that we want to take home and that we want to use for our medicines. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to place tobacco near the foot of that tree, and we're going to thank Mother Earth for giving us these medicines and thank creation. You can also use it a little bit in your shoes before you leave for the day. And that just means that you're walking with good intentions, and it's kind of bringing you that safety, that guidance throughout the day too. Cedar, so cedar represents the west or black quadrant, and it purifies and it calls the spirit's attention when offered in the fire. For sage, that represents the south or the red quadrant of our medicine wheel, and it cleanses those negative thoughts, and it prepares individuals for ceremonies and for teaching. So I have a little bit of that in my smudge bowl today too. And we have sweetgrass, the beautiful, wonderful sweetgrass. That represents the north or the white quadrant. And it represents the hair, the sacred hair of Mother Earth. You'll find it's braided into three. So that's Mother Earth's braid, and it's Mother Earth's hair. It's beautiful. It really promotes kindness, it promotes sweetness, and it really gives that balancing effect and that holistic effect. So it really takes us, it grounds us back down to earth. And those are 4 sacred medicines. So they coincide with the 4 different directions, as I mentioned earlier. And you'll hear us reference the medicine wheel quite a lot while we're doing our workshops, because it's a framework that we like to use when we talk about healing. And we connect it with the biopsychosocial model, which you're going to learn a little bit about later. It's a really powerful, powerful symbol. We teach it as a construct to find balance in our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. And it represents connection because it's circular, it's cyclical, right? So it's never ending. And it's been present in history for time immemorial. So I believe that we originally had seen documented reports of the medicine wheel in 6000 BC, but as we know, I'm sure it stems from way before. I'm sure as far as creation starts, right? So I'm going to light my smudge here. I'm going to give everyone just a virtual smudge. If you have your medicines on you, use your medicines, or let them do the good work. Prepare us for our conversation today. When I smudge, I usually take my glasses. I smudge my glasses first. And then what I'll do is I go over my head because I want to think good thoughts. At times I'll get my hair as well. I'll smudge my eyes to see good things, ears to hear and think good things, mouth to say good things, my heart. And when people smudge their backs, typically, it just means that that they're allowing Creator to watch their back for them, right? So I also carry my smudge, my medicine pouch on me, and I'll bring this with me wherever I go, just in case I need medicines on the go, right? So you never know when you need them. And I'll just offer the smudge to you guys. Chimigwach. Set this to the side for us for now. So this song was gifted to us by Elder Neil Minogue. And I want to start just by talking about how we begin songs. And you'll often find 4. The number 4 is also a pretty powerful symbol, and it's something that we see repetitively when we talk about just different teachings, songs, honor beats. But our honor beats, that's what I want to speak on. So I have my drum here today. She's a new drum. She's a baby. I was able to partake in my drum ceremony, my birthing ceremony the other day. So I made this about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks ago. And sometimes I like to start by warming my drum. Right? We'll warm our drum. When I speak on this drum, I really want to just make aware of like what was what goes into the drum, right? So we have our deer hide and we have our sinew as well. And when we do our 4 honor beats, Hilton King told me that we're doing this to honor creation, but we're also doing this to honor what was given in the process of making this drum, right? We beat our drum in those 4 honor beats. We're awakening the spirit, not just within ourselves, but the spirit and spirit world too. So the hide that was used to make this drum was given to us by our deer, right? The animals of creation, they still hold their teachings and they give their life, and we give thanks to this deer. We give thanks to this deer by using our drum, and we're doing it with our best intentions, and we're doing it in a place of healing. So I think that's really important. We use our drum, and this is giving thanks to the deer when we use our drum because it knows that we're here, we're acknowledging the deer, we're acknowledging the good healing that we're going to do, the good work that we're going to do in its place. So when we beat these honor beats, we're going to beat it and it's going to awake the deer in our 4 directions as well. So they'll stop and they'll hear these beats and they'll think for a moment to themselves just the good work that we're doing and how special these moments are rooted in our healing. This song I think it was a beautiful way to really open up the start of our program. It was gifted to our agency, Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag, and it really talks about what we can do for our children. So we can help our children, we can accompany the children, we can hold and carry the children, and we will love our children, right? The song was taught to me by our wonderful cultural resource advisor, Alicia Mendez, and I love spending my time with her. I try to do so every single Thursday, and yeah, I'm just excited to begin this presentation today to really get into the content. But before we do that, I'm going to sing. So I have to stop sharing my screen for 1 moment so I can fix my mic for you guys and you can hear me sing and you can hear my drum. Karina, can you confirm whether you can see my screen still?
Yes, I can see your screen and the sound is great.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to start with the 4 honor beats. me fix my mic and then we'll carry on. Okie dokie.
Yeah, you're good. I can see your screen.
Perfect. Thank you, Karina. I was just about to ask.
No worries.
All right, so as you see here, this is the Circle of Care for Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag Child and Family Services. We are a designated child well-being agency dedicated to serving First Nations, Inuit, Métis, Indigenous children, youth, and families, both on and off territory. Our work is really guided by the voices and the leadership of the 8 member First Nations who govern our agency. They ensure that our services remain rooted in community values, self-determination, and cultural identity. So at the heart of everything that we do is a commitment of traditional ways of knowing and being. This means recognizing the deep knowledge, teachings, and strengths that have sustained Indigenous families for generations. Our approach is holistic, meaning that we see the whole picture, and we tend to look at focusing on our positives, on a strengths-based approach, rather than just challenges and isolation. So when I say holistic, I mean the whole picture as in the mind, body, spirit, and physical self. And we work to honor and we uphold the resilience of Indigenous families by offering multi-service support that reflects both cultural and contemporary needs. Whether it's through child well-being, prevention services, mental health support, family finding, or community-based programs. We really want to empower individuals, empower families, and this is just a visual representation of who DBCFS is. So this circle shows really who we are without any hierarchy and how we work together really to serve those in our innermost circles, which is our children and youth and our parents, family, and caregivers. Our values can be found on either side of the circle, which I'm going to dive into a little bit more about what our 7 grandfathers are, but we have also added a couple onto this. We added protocol, inclusivity, and holism. So I'll pass it over. Miigwech.
Thank you. Thank you, Cody. So now I'm going to be talking a little bit, hopefully a little bit about CBHS or Center for Behavioral Health Science. I'll be calling it CBHS for short. Lots of abbreviation. But anyways, so CBHS is dedicated to providing care and support to individuals with diverse needs in our community. We serve people of all ages, that meaning we work with both children and adults, living in York or Simcoe regions. And we serve those who receive services under the Ontario Autism Program, or OAP, or who have a developmental disability with a significant cognitive delay or are living with the effects of an acquired brain injury. And I'll talk a little bit, and then for the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about the programs, and you will be able to see it visually. Our team is comprised of regulated behavioral analysts, or another abbreviation RBAs, and behavioral consultants supervised by those RBAs. We collaborate with a variety of other health professionals, community partners, and identity-affirming supports, such as Dnaagdawenmag Child and Family Services, and we're collaborating to provide comprehensive and culturally safe care. We usually, in our practices, use a mediator model, which emphasizes caregiver involvement and empowerment. This model ensures caregivers are informed and equipped to make independent decisions regarding their child's care. So we're really we're hoping to maybe walk alongside you, but not push our vision on you. So as caregivers, it's important to have such support. And on the next slide, you can see, thank you. You can see a variety of programs that we're offering. Again, both in Simcoe and York region. However, I have to mention 2 things. First, in my understanding, when we work and provide our services through our collaboration with Dnaagdawenmag Binnoojiiyag, we're not necessarily stuck on those two regions. It mostly depends on other on availability, most likely, right? So we have cases where it's we're serving some clients outside of those two regions, and those are the programs that you can get access if you're eligible, one way or another. And that's the second thing I would like to mention, that this one of the programs that is not mentioned on the slide is MBTT, or Mobile Behavioral Clinic. It is available in Simcoe region right now only, again, because of the availability and my understanding, availability of the staff. And some of the families that might be watching this workshop, or some of the workers who are working with families that think they might be eligible or might be interested in those services. So you can have access if you're a caregiver. Just connect with your family support worker, and they might have more details on that. That's another very good program that allows you to have access to behavioral treatments that might not be necessarily delivered through OAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. And of course, if anyone has any questions specifically about these slides, we do have our contact information available. I'll be able to share mine in case there are any questions that's more related to what we can offer you. So our partnership, how does this come together, two of our agencies, and what does that mean for us? So we originally began speaking of our partnership back in 2023 when Dnaagdawenmag partnered with Mackenzie Health. And we have a shared commitment really to supporting Indigenous children, youth, and families in a culturally guided way. So the partnership really began with a mutual recognition of what we both could offer each other. Mackenzie Health expressed a sincere interest in walking alongside First Nations, Inuit, and Métis families. And they really saw a way that they could do it where we could both honor culture together, honor tradition, and honor those lived experiences. And in turn, we saw the value of their expertise and commitment to delivering services that really uplift those voices. So what came to life through this collaboration was a really amazingly orchestrated multi-service program. One that has already accompanied so many families in meeting their goals, in striving to do bigger, to do better things. And we come together and we support these families in a partnership. Throughout this process, Mackenzie Health has not only demonstrated partnership, but has also worked with us to establish that two-eyed seeing. And as this partnership continues to grow, we're excited to share the work that has come with it to you guys. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to my friend Karina just about what our projects even are.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So together, both of our agencies put in a proposal to the Ontario Autism Program, or OAP, and we were given a grant that has two streams. First, the Innovation Stream grant. This allowed for the funding of Dnaagdawenmag, this very series of workshops that we'll be talking about more in more details today. And the series of workshops dedicated to focus on community building and education. And second stream, the service provider expansion. This grant allowed for the funding for DBCFS and CBHS to deliver OAP clinical services to children. Basically, this is ABA services that we're able to provide to Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag clientele, and support, again, through the culturally sensitive lens. We also, important to notice that we presented both of our agencies at the Association of Native Child and Family Services of Ontario in 2024, alongside Elder Knowledge Keeper John Rice. Another thing, exciting part of the collaboration is that GBCFS has offered Mackenzie Health training in the Indigenous holistic practices. It's a series of training that, in my understanding, is available for newly hired staff, and so we had a privilege to be part of this training. And it's a fantastic experience, lots of learning, lots of unlearning as well, which is important part, right? And as I always say, I wish everyone could be could have access to this training, because it really, besides obvious benefits. It's, as a professional, I find that it's amazing to be able to see and learn how such heavy topics and non-heavy topics as well are provided in such a gentle and caring way, and yet is so informative. So it was amazing for me, the balance between those two. Yeah, I can talk for hours about that.
Miigwech, Karina. Yeah, I was part of the training around 2 years ago now, and I loved it too. It was amazing. It was beautiful. I can echo everything that you said, Karina. It truly is such an experience.
And I guess this is me again. This is a little bit of yeah, a dry part of it, but let's talk about some terminology. On this slide, we have definitions for both autism spectrum disorder and neurodivergent. So ASD, right here on the slide, you can see the official medical terminology that is included in DSM-5. DSM-5 is, for those who don't know, this is the how do I put it? It's the main book where we medical professionals, paramedical professionals in Western medicine refer to it when we want to double check the diagnoses or establish a diagnosis. So, and it's a very lengthy explanation that includes really two main things. So autism spectrum disorder, child get or adults get diagnosed if specialist sees challenges with social communication interactions, repetitive behaviors, and restricted interest. And those symptoms can be identified in early childhood and can impact daily function. So this is the definition that we usually use when we practice outside of Dnaagdawenmag, and you will understand why I'm saying that. And next is the definition of neurodivergent. That's another very common popular term on mainstream. You might have heard that. You might be using it as well. So it's a broader term that includes autism and other neurological differences, emphasizing the diversity of human brain and value of different ways of thinking. Um, Now, it's important to acknowledge that the DSM-5 definition primarily focuses on the challenges associated with autism. And this is something that we're trying to maybe not walk away, but kind of soften a little bit in our collaborative work, right? Because we want to use two-eyed seeing, and we want to always remember that there is no one correct way of looking at the person, right? There are different teachings, there are different ideas of how the norm should look like. So DSM-5 is an important document, but there are other ways to look at this.
Which is what I'll dive into a little bit. What other ways? What other perspectives are there? Well, millions. Everyone carries a different worldview. And as we move through these workshops, one of our main hopes is really to encourage that new perspective, opening those new doors that go beyond what we already know and welcome some different ways of understanding. That is the beauty of culture, that's beauty of humanity and individuality, right? And each of us as individuals, we're so complex. We have so many different layers, and you could peel us back, and there's just so many, right? Almost like an onion, as I like to say. But when we embrace that, we really are able to open doors to those new conversations and have deeper connections with meaningful learning. And Karina just did a wonderful job at the previous slide, reviewing just how the Western perspective of it is. And I want to open what the Indigenous perspective is, and also just some other terms as well, which I think you'll find interesting here. So you'll see how on this slide we touch on how cultures and languages vary, not just in words, but how words carry themselves. What are their connotations in those meanings? And yeah, they carry different values, but language is really powerful, and each word symbolizes something that's unique, and it reflects the worldview of people who use it. So in Cree, you'll hear patotetem, which is he or she thinks differently. In Maori, you'll hear takuatanga, which is in his or her own time and space. In Hindi, you'll see that it translates to self-reliant. In Arabic, you'll see that it translates to oneness or unity. And these are all terms that essentially derive from the word autism, which I think autism itself is Greek. So that's really interesting. If you look into that, I encourage you to see just how many different terms you can find, how many different translations you can find. And you'll also see that I have highlighted in red, shiny people or children. And this is a nod to John Rice because he he really talks about the shiny people and the shiny children in a beautiful and in a beautiful holistic way. And I think we're going to really dive into that later with a special curated video. So I'm excited for that. Let me go ahead.
Thank you. Well said. And this little slide here is just to really summarize what we've been talking about up until now. It depicts our approach. So our hope is that we'll be using inclusive language. We'll be demonstrating that we value all identities and value all terms, kind of to echo what Cody was saying earlier. Just to, we're dedicated to support this 2i teaching and 2i, concept. So yeah, hopefully that's what we're going to be doing.
Absolutely. And I believe on that note, we're going to talk about two-eyed seeing. So I have a little bit of a slide here just introducing people to that term if they may not be familiar with it. And some of you may have heard it before, others have not. So let's give a quick recap. Two-eyed seeing was originally coined in the early colonial period, but was used first in a Western setting by Mi'kmaq elder Albert Marshall, who I have pictured on this slide. Albert Marshall used the concept to describe the ability to see the world through both Indigenous and Western knowledge. It's a concept that means to see from one eye with the strengths or Indigenous ways of knowing, and to see from the other eye with the strengths of Indigenous ways of knowing, and to use both of these eyes together. And this term, I think it was also used to encourage Mi'kmaq University students to explore different educational pathways in science, but it's since been used in various different institutions as well. For example, in government policies, strategic plans, research, and it was also included in the Canadian Institute of Health Research, which was quite a big one. And I think it's really interesting, and I think people would be different institutions and government policies and stuff, we should start to accept that too. Seeing like, how can we do this together? Really, it's a partnership. So it also applies to our partnership as we believe in not choosing just one way of being over another. It's about respecting both and using them in a way that benefits individuals, families, and communities. This approach is essential in partnerships, in relationships, and also our worldview because it encourages that mutual respect, that shared learning, and that collaboration. But I bet you guys are curious, like, how can we use this in caregiving, right? Well, it's foundational. So it creates that balance and reciprocity. Two-eyed seeing really ensures that knowledge is shared rather than imposed, and it allows for relationships that are more reciprocal. It's that give and that take, right? When organizations and ourselves, when we adopt two-eyed seeing, we can move beyond that tokenism and we can create that deep trust. And it fosters that stronger relationship and it promotes that strength-based collaboration. We want to see through a strengths-based perspective. But in caregiving, two-eyed seeing really helps us recognize that there's no single right way, like Karina had mentioned earlier. So for example, in the Western view, we can use developmental milestones and we can use the structured behavioral strategies and evidence-based interventions, and those really guide support. But we can also use the Indigenous view, how we see learning happens through observation. We use that sight. We learn by that. We learn through other people and through witnessing other people, but we also learn through storytelling. There's a really big focus on storytelling in Indigenous communities because they are our way of learning and they are the way of like passing down to further generations. We can use our aunties, our uncles, our grandparents, our elders, and we can learn through them too. we can use our connection to land and those relational teachings. But with two-eyed seeing, a caregiver might incorporate both storytelling, land-based activities, intergenerational teachings, alongside those structured interventions like visual schedules or social stories to promote a child's development. So let's look through the strengths of both sides. Let's use that together. What?
Thank you. And yeah, let's talk about what is ABA. First, let's talk about ABA as science. Because it's a science, we can spend a lot of time on talking what it is and what kind of benefits we can have. But simply put, ABA is the science of understanding and improving behavior. Think of it like a roadmap to help your child learn new skills, replace unwanted behaviors with more positive ones in a systematic way. So ABA as a science focuses on learning. So we use ABA to teach a wide range of skills: communication, toileting, anything, everyday like leaving tasks. But also we can teach and support child in learning important skills like managing their emotions and solving problems. Another thing we use ABA for and with, it's the positive approach, because I know there's often a common stereotype about ABA maybe using punishment, which I assure you we don't. It's one of the first things that are mentioned when you're, practicing ABA and learning to be an ABA professional. That punishment is a very last resort, and it's really, really hard even get to approve punishment-based strategy. So really, ABA, at least modern ABA for sure, we're focusing more on exploring child's gifts or strengths, as we call it, and working through that. So and encouragement is what we use. Also, ABA uses proven strategies, so it's an evidence-based approach, which is also important. We, through ABA science, we try to create individualized approach for every child. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's what works for the specific individual. And I keep saying child, but obviously it's applicable to the adults, the older clients as well. Also, a cool thing about ABA, it's flexibility and responsiveness. And because we understand that every child learns and progresses in their own pace. And again, that comes back to the, creating individualized approach. So we work with a child. We're trying not to enforce anything, just going along with the child, using the encouragement and gifts. And that being said, ABA is not just science. It's more than that. It's the approach that works on building on strengths, honoring the whole child. We're really big into collaboration. ABA is most effective when we all work together. And we are learning from what works. So that brings us back to evidence-based practices. We combine the best of both worlds: evidence-based practices from Western science and the wisdom of indigenous knowledge. And hopefully in further future workshops, we'll be able to demonstrate that. Yeah, so ABA is an interesting science, and we use it in our practice, and I believe that's going to be the next slide. I'll keep talking. Sorry, guys, that's me again. But here on this specific slide, you can see how we use ABA services in our collaborative work with Dnaagdawenmag Binnoojiiyag. So it's very, very similar to how we would provide our services to our regular CBHS clients. However, it is tweaked a little bit, or not a little bit, to support specifically clients of Dnaagdawenmag Binnoojiiyag. So before we start providing our services, we meet with the prospective client and the family in a circle. So this is the very first step for us. This is the part that is fully facilitated by Dnaagdawenmag Binnoojiiyag. We just show up there. It's a very safe space where family and comfortable space where caregivers can meet with us as, parts of CBHS. Those circles can be in person. They can be also facilitated online. It really depends on the availability and the comfort level of everyone, every participant. And that is where we just introduce ourselves. We try to explain what are our goals and hopes and what we really do and what we can really offer within this collaboration. And then after the circle, we just wait. We wait for the family to make a decision. It's absolutely on the family and caregivers to decide if they would like to try it or not. And if we get yes as an answer, that's when we come for in-person meeting. Usually it happens on this, in caregivers' house, but again, home. But again, it really depends on the situation, on the client, on the family. It can be facilitated online. It can be mixed online in person in the community, whatever. We're trying to accommodate every family and every client. And we usually come together with Simha, which are the beautiful workers from Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag. So really, this project looks like two people, from both agencies are showing up. As behavioral consultants, we are able to offer our expertise in ABA, in behavioral science, and Simhas are doing most of the work really, and they're ensuring that the cultural piece is there, that families needs and cultural pieces, and in implementing those cultural strategies are also met. Once we observe the child, we talk to the family, gather information, hear their goals and expectations and hopes. We're trying to build on that and create strategies. Sometimes it's a foolproof ABA program. Sometimes it's just, we call it incidental teaching, just like applicable to the specific moment. Again, really depends on the family's needs and comfort level. And then we just, put something in place and provide ongoing support to the families. Something that I always forget to forget to mention, that those services last 12 to 16 weeks and usually 2 to 4 hours per week. So that means, for example, if the whatever program in one way or another is put by week 3, we're not disappearing. We're still there with the family. We're still providing weekly meetings, and we're providing ongoing supports. We're helping to maybe, tweak the program, work on something. We also are working hard to support families. Sometimes they have challenges in registering with OAP. Some kiddos have official diagnoses, but families were never able to register, or, OAP is intimidating. The whole process is not always easy. So we're trying to advocate from that perspective as well. Also with schools, we have quite a few. I know Mario, my colleague, my senior consultant, he has quite a few successful stories where he was able to go to school and advocate for a child and work with school staff and, on creating more safe and supportive environment there. And that's how we work on the AVA.
Perfect. I think you summed that up really, really well, Karina. And I think it's important to remember just how much our elders are involved during this process too. So when we had this program coming to fruition, they sat with us and they sit with us frequently. I think we have at least a monthly or a bi-weekly meeting with our senior supervisors and our elders, and we come together and we say what's working, what isn't working, and what could we do better? What should we do moving forward? So it's like that relearning process, learning and relearning. And we do this in a way that just really supports families, and we want to keep doing better for them. And when we try to think about cultural pieces, we also think about like what would the children like on a more like macro level. Um, what would the children like to see in their sessions? Do they want that song? Do they want that drumming? Do they want that smudging? These cultural items, again, are brought by our child, youth, and mental health and addictions workers, like Karina had mentioned earlier. And they hold these teachings, they carry these teachings, and they share them with the families, and they share them with whoever feels they want to partake in these, because some children, they may have struggles with smudging if it comes to like more sensory related issues that they may be experiencing. So what can we do instead of that? Well, we can bring like a pelt or something. We'll bring our bundles with us. And one child in particular, he really likes to feel the pelt after, and he likes to feel it because it soothes him. That's his calming his central nervous system, right? So we really want to set our families up with success, and we also want them to connect to culture in a way that feels meaningful to them. So all those things again are discussed at Circle. What are they wanting to see there? What maybe do they not align with? What can we do to support them? So yeah, those things are, it's very family led, it's very child led and child centered, and I think that's the beautiful thing about it. So this is the program name, Dnaagdawenmag, which translates to Path of the New Heart. The first third of it refers to new, so that's Oshki. Ode refers to heart, and Wewin refers to path. And this was gifted to us by other knowledge keeper, John Rice. You're going to see him in a video later, but he came to this under lots of he has a special gift of dreaming and visions. So this took him some time for this name to come to him, but when it did, aren't we glad that it did? Because I think this is beautiful and it sums up exactly what our program is, but we're dedicated to, we're moving forward, we're trying to follow that. That refers to the eighth fire, I believe, the prophecy of the eighth fire, where it's we're welcoming this new generation. And it says when the white and the red man see together and they come up together and they come up with an answer, then that's how we move forward, right? So I'm excited just about what this means, but also how it applies to our program. But what our goal here is to really enhance the well-being of Indigenous families through a culturally grounded, trauma-informed, and family-centered model of care. And we do this through the series of our educational workshops, or otherwise known as Ashkade. It's designed to support Indigenous caregivers and families raising children with diverse abilities, whatever this may look like. And we really encourage people to join, whether it's staff, families, caregivers, aunties, uncles, grandparents, like I'd mentioned. We really encourage them to join because we want people to add to their knowledge bundles. We really want people to feel like they walk away with something. And we hope to add to that, right? So we try to integrate that Indigenous knowledge and Western approaches as much as possible, and we try to do that with a culturally safe and supportive practice. And we just have a few different topics here. One moment while I find myself. So yeah, our first topic, after this one, of course, subsequently, is dreaming well. Encouraging healthy sleep patterns. So in this workshop, you're going to learn how to create a peaceful bedtime routine and understand how sleep affects your child's behavior and your well-being, as well as your own sleep and your own well-being, right? What can we do to really emphasize that healthy sleep? So we'll discover culturally aware approaches to sleep and the sacredness of sleep in Indigenous traditions, because they say sleep is our best medicine. It's our most necessary medicine at times. Our next one, seeing the whole child, understanding behaviors. You're going to gain a deeper understanding of why your child behaves the way that they do, and we're going to learn practical strategies to support that growth, right? We're also going to connect behavior to the medicine wheel framework. We're going to consider spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental well-being. The next one is navigating mental wellness for diverse thinkers. You're going to learn how to support your child's mental health and access resources that might meet their unique needs. We're going to talk about understanding mental wellness through an Indigenous lens while also emphasizing balance and interconnectedness. The next one we're going to talk about is creating safe or finding balance, grief, guilt, and shifting routines. We're going to develop coping strategies for grief and guilt, but we're also going to learn how to really balance ourselves because as a parent, as a caregiver, as a provider, sometimes we carry that extra guilt, those shifting routines, and we think going into parenting, going into caregiving, taking care of one of our little or special ones, we assume that it's going to be one way, but what happens if it's a different way, right? Our expectations versus reality. So how do we find that balance? How do we let go of that, right? The next one we're going to talk about is creating safety and trust. So this is about trauma-informed support for caregivers. We're going to learn how to create that safe and supportive environment for your child. We're also going to learn how to build that trust through a trauma-informed lens. We're going to incorporate anti-oppressive and decolonizing approaches to build resilience. The next one is the justice system, what caregivers should know. We're going to understand the justice system and learn how to advocate for your child's rights and needs, including how to access Indigenous specific supports while in the court system or the justice system. So that could be something like the GLUDU reports, but we'll talk more about that. Strength and knowledge, teaching healthy sexuality is next. We're going to learn how to have open and supportive conversations about sexuality with your child, and we're going to teach just about those healthy boundaries, right? We're going to explore cultural teachings on sexuality as well as relationships. So this might be a conversation where we talk about two-spirit individuals and what that looks like and what that means. We're also going to talk next and last, but not least, is supporting success through behavior strategies. This is where we're going to speak on discovering practical strategies and tools to help your child thrive. So we're going to use positive reinforcement in this workshop and maybe talk on visual supports. From there, we're going to incorporate the role of storytelling, connect the tasks to just how potentially we'll speak on maybe clan systems and what it means to be part of a clan, and the responsibilities that come with it, as well as how to empower our children and youth. But throughout this workshop series, we'll be revisiting very key concepts like the biopsychosocial model, the medicine wheel, the 7 grandfather teachings, and this is intentional as these frameworks really provide a foundation for understanding behavior, promoting well-being, and honoring Indigenous perspectives. Consider this a connecting thread, how it weaves through each workshop and offer reminders, and it'll deepen your understanding as well. So this is normally where we would cut for a break, but because this is online, we're just going to keep going. And yeah, I believe that's you, Karina.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a beautiful explanation of our workshops. And that brings us to a discussion of biopsychosocial model and medicine wheel. So those are two core tools that are used in Indigenous practices and Western practices when it comes to treatment and support to individuals. The tool I'm going to talk about is biopsychosocial model. And later on, I'll pass that back to Cody. So she will be talking, obviously, on medicine wheel. She's more knowledgeable than me in that. So in CBHS, in order to ensure our strategies are individualized and tailored specifically for each client, we design our supports based on the biopsychosocial model. It's a mouthful to say, and there is no abbreviation for that, so bear with me every time I'm going to be pronouncing this. And you can see this model or framework on the left side. It's like kind of like a 3 sections. Interestingly enough, both models, biopsychosocial model and medicine wheel, they both emphasize the importance of a holistic approach to well-being, focusing on the whole person rather than just isolated symptoms or problems. And this is really what we're looking for, right? So here's how they're connected. Biological and physical part, you can see it. It's like a purple on the right side. In both models, the physical health of a person is seen as an essential aspect of overall well-being. In the biopsychosocial model, this relates to the biological component, for example, genetics, health, um, like a biological, physiological health, while in medicine wheel, this is reflected in the physical or east section of the wheel. Next one is psychological and mental. In the psychological component of biopsychosocial model, it aligns with the mental or mind or west section of the medicine wheel, where mental health, cognition, and emotional regulation are central to overall health. And you can see those little dots. I was trying to indicate which part of the biopsychosocial model can be seen as corresponding to the medicine wheel. And hopefully you'll see more connections once Cody's slides are up. So next part is social and emotional. The social aspect of the biopsychosocial model matches the emotional or south section of the medicine wheel, where relationships, community, and emotional support are crucial for a balanced life. Next one is the spiritual part or Norse section of the medicine wheel. This is something that we don't have in classic or, yeah, the original biopsychosocial model. However, we all know that this aspect is crucial and we can't really fully have operate within holistic approach if we're not taking into consideration spiritual part. So actually, interestingly enough, that in modern science, spiritual part is like lots of scientists are trying to incorporate spiritual part, and usually it comes to the psychological. They added psychological, or sometimes it's shared between psychological and social parts of a biopsychosocial model, because again, we know that it's important. It's important to have a sense of purpose, connection, and inner peace. And on that, I'm going to pass it back to Cody so she can talk more about medicine wheel. Thank you.
Great. I believe we'll be jumping into some teachings about our 7 grandfathers. So the 7 grandfather teachings. And then at the end, we're going to have a medicine wheel activity. And I'm going to share with you what I do on my medicine wheel to help me be balanced. But I just want to speak here because this is a framework that we'll also use, like I'd mentioned earlier, how we're going to bring this up into conversation again throughout our subsequent or following workshops. So I'm excited to dive into this. But the 7 grandfather teachings, that is love, wisdom, respect, humility, courage, truth, and honesty, they provide a powerful framework for caregiving, especially for children who experience the world differently. With anything in life, there's a balance. There's a certain harmony. So with the 7 grandfather teachings, you'll find that there's also the flip side. So for example, with love, there comes hate. With respect, there comes disrespect. With fear, with courage, there's fear. And with truth, there's deceit, and so on and so forth. So I think it's important to recognize that there's both. And as humans, we're never perfect. And it's okay. It's okay to sometimes fray from this and stray from this because we can't expect ourselves to be our best all the time. So when you're doing good enough, when you're doing the best that you can, that's what's important. That said, these are just some teachings that can guide us in creating a safe and compassionate and culturally rooted caregiving experience with our shiny children. And that's the word that John uses, so I'm excited. So wisdom teaches us to see beyond limitations and recognize the unique gift that each child carries. Love reminds us that every child is a sacred being who deserves care, patience, and belonging. And the children teach us. They teach us. I say that a lot. We come back to that. They teach us, right? The children really teach us how to love them, how to accept them, how to cherish them exactly as they are. Respect teaches us that each child has their own way of understanding, interacting with, and moving through the world, kind of like that Maori term, where it says he or she moves at their own time and pace. Bravery teaches us that caregivers are put in a position of advocacy, and I know this can be scary. Advocacy is scary enough for ourselves when we go to a doctor's office and we're sitting down and our palms are sweaty and we're like, oh my goodness, what do we say, right? How do I communicate for myself? So I could see why it would be scary for people to to advocate for their children as well, right? But that's what we're here for. We're here to learn, and we're here to give you those strategies to welcome that advocacy for your children. So if you're not, we will be speaking on this later in subsequent following workshops. But this advocacy, you'll often find it in schools, medical systems, community spaces. So don't feel alone if you don't know where you're going with it. And if you have any questions, we can always provide that knowledge with you. Honesty teaches us that it's okay to acknowledge both the beauty and the struggles of caregiving, and I think that's allowed. I think everyone should give themselves a break. And humility reminds us that we do not have all the answers. I sure don't. I definitely do not. If I did, I wish I did. But we don't, and that's okay. So sometimes you'll feel pressure to fix the challenges, but humility teaches us that it's our role to walk alongside the child, and we can learn from them too. It's okay. And truth calls on us to see and accept our children for who they are, without shame, without expectation, and we can celebrate them. We can celebrate our children. We can we can celebrate the uniqueness of them, their big feelings, and accepting them for who they are at their core. So this is the video. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while I get this set up. I know you guys have been waiting for this. Some of you may have skipped through to this. Hopefully not. Hopefully we still got you. But here, let me set this up for you guys. I'm excited. This teaching never gets old. I always love, it's like when I listen to it, I'm listening to it for the first time again. Okay. Let me share, and Karina will confirm with me once I get this set up that we're doing this correctly.
I'll just give you thumbs up. You can see me, right?
Perfect. Yes, I can. Thank you, Karina.
So I don't want to interrupt. So I'll just.
So, when we think of ourselves as Anishinaabe, we always go back to the creation story. One of the things that the creation story reminds us of is our gift as people is intuition. We call that the ability to have knowledge without knowing how we came by that knowledge. So in our creation story, we were given that. So prophecy is a big part of who we are, knowing things that were going to happen in the future. And many of those things came from dreaming, visioning, and even watching the world around us. Even in this modern time, our teachers will remind us to watch what's happening in the media. Yeah, it sounds funny, but that's also prophecy can come through that way. So that gift of intuition gives us that means of seeing what's going to happen next. But if we turn our minds back to a long time ago, back when our people were living the natural way, we try to always remind ourselves of the golden time. There was a time when we were interconnected with everything in creation. Our Mother Earth gave us everything we needed, that we survived all 4 seasons. In fact, we didn't just only survive, we prospered. And how we did that was that interconnection, we say, and that way of being where we knew what was coming next. And we were people who were used to cycles. You know, we had the day cycle, that there would be a nighttime, but you knew there would be a morning the next day. And also in the moon, there would be a new moon, there would be a full moon, there would be a new moon again, that there were lunar cycles. And both as men and women, that cycle influenced us in our waters in the way that we were in life. And then also the seasons had a cycle, the beginning of the season and the end of the season and the transition in between the seasons. Those affected us. And then also the yearly cycle, the 13 moons, where we went through that whole year. Some people call it now the cycle around the sun. But that repetition of the cycles, ingrained in us the pattern of living, daily, monthly, seasonally, and yearly. From that, we knew what was going to be the pattern itself, but also from that pattern, we got to see over various time spans, maybe 7 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 70 years even. We saw things that would happen from time to time over those cycles. And knowing those cycles helped us see into the future, what might happen 70 years from now. You could say at one time, our elders would say, this winter right now, it'll repeat itself 70 years from now. So in that sense, it's prophecy. So our people were big on knowing what was coming next, either through prophecy, through storytelling over what's happened before, or being in the moment, is how we would do that. So we talk about ourselves as human beings and our evolutions and all of our changes, all the stories we have about ourselves. I remember there's even a story about, long-eared Ojibways and short-eared Ojibways. At one time, one was in vogue, the other time, the other one was in vogue. So you can tell by me, I'm a long-eared Ojibway. We're in vogue right now. No, just kidding. So we talk about prophecies. There was a time we remember too when things were amongst us. One of the oldest memories we have was a time when we could speak to the animals. We no longer carry that at this time. And also about 10 years ago, Sabe, he came to remind us that he knows our language, but we've forgotten his, is what he said to us. These conversations we've had with these beings remind us now how we were at one time. And we say many things in our culture have been lost. Early at contact, our people were very tall. They say Anishinaabe were about 6'4" on average. We're shorter now, eh? But the prophecy said that tall people will return. There's one small prophecy you can listen to. And I look around in my community, all my nephews are about 6'4". In fact, when I stand amongst them, I feel like I'm standing in the trees. So these things that talk about how we were before contact, they would prophesize that those things would return again over time. So like I talk about the tall Anishinaabe, they're coming back. Our young women and men are taller than I am. We're getting taller. The prophecies predicted that. Some of the other things the prophecy predicted was, they say there's a story that there were shining people who walked amongst us. They were shining ones, where they were called. And the story says we forgot how to look after them. So they went away. We lost them, is what the story says. But the prophecy said that one day they would return to us again. They would come back, is what that story said. And you might know that, eh? Some of our children, they carry that name, Jonya, attached to the name. Maybe his name is Jonya Walgwish, a shining wolf. Or maybe her name is Jonya Gaming, a shining lake. It's even in the names of their spirits that they've come back to us. But what is this shining? It has more than just to do with the spirit. It has a way of how they exist, how they see the world. One of the things that has been identified through the mainstream, through school, through religion, that these ones don't fit into those patterns. Those ones are sometimes they're called oppositional defiant. Sometimes they're ADHD. Sometimes they're nowadays one of the things that they autistic is what they're called, because they don't quite mesh into those systems of education and religion. So they're made to feel different. Well, for one, they are different. But from our understanding as Anishinaabe people, when that prophecy said the Shining One would return, it speaks to these young children and young men and young adults even, who in this mainstream would carry the label ADHD, autism, and these other things, that they in fact are shining beings who came back to us. One of the things when we talk about autism, for one, they say that this is where they think up here. It's up here is where they exist in their mind. And they have a greater capacity to understand things at that level as someone who's up there. In fact, one of the things that we acknowledge, and maybe not so much the people who live with them, the parents and their siblings, but they're generally regarded as healing. When you spend time with someone who's autistic, the conversations you can have with them, the concepts that they carry, the questions that they have, make you feel better when you leave them. That's one of the things we remember about them. And we say now we're in that place that they're coming back. How do we take care of them? How do we look after them? For one, we can acknowledge that their differences in our culture are viewed as acceptable, normal even, because we had this history where they lived with us before. We had this understanding that the way they saw things, the way that they enacted, were to keep us in a good, healthy way, that we didn't become stagnant, we didn't become stuck in a way. They moved us forward through time. They moved us forward through philosophy even. They opened up philosophies we've forgotten, that we can think in a way that's more open, more expansive is the way we do it. So when we talk about these shining people, the shining ones have returned to us. And I'm not just talking about newborns, 5 or 6 year olds. There are some adults walking around who came my generation, maybe even a generation ago. They've been with us. And unfortunately, because they came into a time that wasn't acceptable for them, some of them have suffered from that through some of the social ills that this modern culture brings: alcoholism, suicide, all these things, detachment, all these things that they didn't feel welcome, made them feel that they didn't belong here. Many times you'll hear someone say, I was born in the wrong time. These are the people who've been coming here, the shining ones, we say, who came to a time that maybe isn't quite ready for them. So one of the things we need to remember as people is that we're prophecy people, that we know the prophecy. We talk about ourselves, knowing things that were going to happen. The return of the tall ones, the return of the shining ones. I mean, that prophecy itself said we forgot how to look after them. So one of the ways we remember now is how are we going to look after them? And we know here at Dnaag and through Mackenzie Health, there's an initiative now to where we can acknowledge a better way of helping these people teach us how to look after them. And unfortunately, that's probably the way it is. They're going to teach us how to look after them because we're the ones who forgot these special beings and the way that they think, the thoughts that they carry. So we need to have the patience. I know in my relationship with several young people, it's been encouraging for me to say to this one young guy in particularly, I said to him, you're too smart for school. His eyes went really big because he had never been told that. I said, school is a set pattern. It's a set way. It's a set format. I said, and you don't fit that format. And school isn't smart enough to fit you, I said to him. You're smarter than the school. You're smarter than that system. So you need to give them some leniency. You need to have pity on them. That somewhere in here, you would have to show them how to look after you, is what I said to him. But for a little while, he sat there and we just talked about that because he didn't have that thinking in his mind that he was smarter than school. He didn't have that thinking in his mind that the way he was outside these patterns of religion and education, that he was gifted and seeing things that were that those systems didn't see or didn't even value in. So what he did after a while, though, when he started seeing that he could see, his own intelligence, his own mind, and the way that he shone, he eventually took measures for himself, where he decided one day, he said, I just want to be a normal kid going to school. And then he worked towards that. Now he's back in school. Uh, I wouldn't call him normal. He's still gifted. He's still a shining one. He's just found a way to help that institution communicate with him. So that's one of the things too, when we talk about these ones. A lot of times with the shining people, we just don't know how to communicate with them because we are used to a set system. We've been conditioned through our education, like even in our culture, even in our lodge, in our ceremonies. We've been conditioned to set patterns where we're forgetting to look at those ones who move it, those ones who are outside of the thinking, who have peripheral vision. And that's one thing we need to remember. The vision they have isn't an illness, it's peripheral. They see things we don't see. Over time, maybe in our own lives, we've been conditioned not to believe our own gifts, not to believe our gift of vision, not to believe our own way of understanding life, prophecy even. But these young ones, they have that. And we need to find ways of communicating with them so they can relate to us what they see. But it begins with us also having that open mind to listen and not judge what we're hearing, but take a listening to it so that we begin to listen to them. We hear what their message is, and we begin to interpret what we're hearing. But we have to step outside of our own conditioned minds, our minds that have been conditioned in these modern patterns. So that's on us to take the time to step away from what we think we know and learn from these young ones and these people who think outside of what the mainstream calls normal. So that's where we are. We're at a place where we're learning how to look after these shining ones again. And like I want to remind you, they're not just young people. There are some adults who are walking around like that already. So we need to acknowledge some of us are already shining people, and we're actually, you might see that in the forefront of some of the movements in our culture, in our philosophies, even in our arts, in our films, in our acting. These shining ones are I'll say it that way, infiltrating the mainstream. eh, the gifts that they have. That's the way our young people will be. And the Shining Ones gave that to us at one time, the capacity to move forward as a culture, capacity to move forward as a race even, and integrating incredible philosophies into our being, incredible things, concepts, You can imagine how beautiful it would be to remember talking to the animals, being able to converse to Sabe in his own language, and also other things we remember, the little people, communicating with them. When they come into our house and steal things, figure out what that's all about and what we need to do for them. These were aspects of our culture that are easily transferable into any element of we are, and in any element of individuality, in terms of, seeing things from a bigger scope, a more holistic perspective. But for one, the shining ones, they're here to teach us. And hopefully, we can have our eyes and ears open for that, because the seven fires prophecy had said that. The red one would take an introspection. He'd be asked a question by the paleface, and he would look inside himself and come up with an answer. And if he came up with the right answer, it says, then the eighth generation would come, and they would know eternal peace. Eternal harmony is what it says. But if the red one internalized and came up with the wrong answer, then it says the world as we know would end. And, prophecies, they're open to interpretation. But these new ones that are here, maybe that's the internalizing, looking at these gifted ones, looking at these shining ones. They're the beginnings, maybe, of showing us into the eighth fire. And we need to acknowledge that. Remind ourselves that we forgot how to look after them at one time. Now the onus is on us to look after them again, so that this time we don't lose them. They don't become disinterested. They don't become disassociated. They don't lose meaning for life, but they can see their full value in this entire way of being. Miigwech.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, let me stop sharing here for one moment. Just getting us set up again, right where we left off. Bear with me, folks.
Such a beautiful teaching. It's
It really
just
is.
every time. It's not my first time hearing it, and it's just every time it just gets you. Really. It's
It
wonderful.
does. So I just want to quickly, before we get into our practical takeaways, I kind of want to talk about that video. So John Hilton King and Marianne, we all sat together and we were able to sit down and film these videos and film their teachings that they've carried with them to share knowledge. And we were able to do this for our program. And they so gracefully shared their teachings with us. And I'm so grateful and just happy that they were able to do that for us, because it really adds to our program. It adds to what we're doing here. And it's central in our takeaways. And I think that with this video, I kind of want you guys, you viewers, our participants, to just wonder and take that video and speak on and think on what resonates with you. What did you take away from it? What really spoke to you? So for me, when he brought up how there was that story of that young child who he had mentioned was too smart for school, right? I think that kind of goes into what we're trying to do here and offering people alternatives, offering families alternatives, offering them different choices and different pathways. So what can we do that can like sway away from the Western institutions? What can we do that can offer families that choice, whether they want to continue with Western or whether they want to start incorporating that Indigenous pathway as well? How can we offer them that alternative and make sure that their child reaches those unique goals that they have set for themselves, right? How are we able to do that? And I think that's what our program is about. We want people to walk away feeling like they have informed decisions and informed pathways. You know, we want to be able to provide you that knowledge, those takeaway understandings that can help you create those decisions and help you make those pathways that are unique for your family, for your child, and do it in the best way possible, right? With those best intentions. So that's our goal here. And I just implore you to think on what does shiny people, what does the shiny ones mean to you? Does that change your perspectives on autism? Does that change your perspectives on people who may be categorized as neurodivergent? And how does it? How does it change that for you? I implore you to think on that because his video and his teaching really opens up new worlds for us. It opens up a new understanding and I would like you to really to make peace and just and listen to it and take what comes to you. And like he said, he had mentioned that our prophecies, our teachings are meant to be interpreted, right? So how it sounds to you, it might sound different to me. It might sound different to the person next to you. But again, that's the beauty of it. The beauty that everything and everyone is different and you're able to have those interpretations and they stay with you. So that's kind of what I have to say about the video, but I'll pass it over to Karina to speak on some more practical takeaways. Miigwech.
Thank you. Thank you. So hard. How do you even talk after after John Rice? Do you even need to? So humbling. But yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit, my personal perspective, just because I'm so overwhelmed always after this video, like in a good way. I absolutely agree with you, Cody, on on that practical example that he provided. Was always speaks to me, but also I really like the way John Rice is talking very gently on how and like kind of like redirects our attention to the fact that we should allow shiny people to teach us. We should let them and we should listen to them, right? And this is something that in Western medicine, our practice, we call child-led practices, right? Because we talked a lot today, I think, hopefully enough, about how it is important in this project, right? In practices for both of our agencies, how it is important to empower the caregivers. And it is 100%, it's very, very important. But I also think it's important to remember that our shiny ones, right? Our clients, our kiddos are powerful in that way. They can teach us as well, right? And they can show us what are their needs, and it's important to and wants, right? And it's important to remember that about that and listen to them as well, right? And listen metaphorically, because not always they talk to us, right? Not always they like verbally express it, but there is always a way to see what they want and what they need. So that's a fantastic video, always. And yeah, and I think honestly, Cody, I feel like you touched upon all the practical takeaways. I guess I'll be just very, very short on the slide. You can see what are the practical takeaways, right? So the goals and hopes for Dnaagdawenmag is that we will be able to provide a series of workshops where we're committed to provide services that are culturally grounded, trauma-informed, family-centered, and interactive. And hopefully we'll be able to provide that through all the series. And I think we have a list of them, right, coming up next.
Yes, absolutely. I can take on that part, Karina.
Thank you.
Yeah, so these are our workshops. I know I kind of gave you guys a rundown earlier exactly what we'll be talking about. But those descriptions, they're tenfold when you're able to register. So in the coming slides, I'll show you guys the QR code. So you're able to take what you want from this and apply and get into your registrations and sign up for what feels right for you, what you want to take away. Like, what do you need that knowledge bundle built on? And that's what we're here for. You don't have to subscribe to all 9 of them. You can choose what feels right. So our first workshop, or our upcoming one, is on February 20th. And then from there, we have March 6th, March 20th, April 3rd, April 17th, May 1st, May 15th, and May 29th. You'll find that there's a bit of a pattern here. It's because they repeat bi-weekly on Thursdays. We have sessions from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in person in Whitby, Rama, or Peterborough. Those are our 3 offices that we also are able to do asynchronously, so with a virtual option available for people who aren't able to attend in person. And yeah, this is just a quick look of it, what it looks like. So remember those bi-weekly Thursdays. If you don't have anything going on, please join us. And if not, we'll see you guys in this recorded version. Yeah. This is our link to registration. If you need to pause, take a moment, take a picture of this, screenshot it, whatever you might have to do, you're more than welcome to. This will bring you to our registration platform. This also has the information on the bi-weekly Thursdays and the 2 sessions that we offer. So take a peek at that. But yeah, for our medicine wheel activity, this is something I also want you to resonate on. This is my medicine wheel. And we think of the medicine wheel in our spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental quadrants. And when I break those up, what am I doing for my wellness to find balance in my 4 quadrants? So spiritually, I may be partaking in smudging, EKK time, praying, affirmations, drumming, singing, and being on the land. And you'll find too that one strategy that you might be doing for yourself can apply to all 4 quadrants. And I think it's important to remember that one thing that we do up here in our spiritual might make us better emotionally, might make us feel better physically, might make us feel better mentally. So they all really work together. That's that interconnectedness, that cyclical piece. For physically, I sometimes struggle with my eating. I struggle like staying strict to a schedule or doing having that nutrition that I need. So I make sure to listen to my body. What am I feeling right now? So that's almost a meditative practice as well. You can step back, kind of think physically, okay, what is my body feeling? What is my body needing? Am I feeling hungry? Do I need some water? It's definitely good to have my emotional support water bottle next to me. I like to be active and having those balanced meals. I like to go on walks with my partner. Emotionally, I like to disconnect from social media. I try to practice self-care as best as possible. I reach out to my loved ones, and I have to be open when I'm not doing okay, because half the time I'll kind of step back, I'll retreat within myself, but I know deep down that that's not good for me. So what can I do to better myself? And that is to reach out to people, because I know people love me and I know people love you, right? So let's reach out to our loved ones. Let's be open when we're not doing okay. And, I do my best to go to therapy because I think that's a big step in my healing as well. Mentally, I try to do meditations. Like I said, I try to do my breathing exercises, especially before bed. I think it's important to really calm that nervous system. I like to read and I like to research. I think it keeps me sharp. I like to have stimulating conversation, especially ones like this one with you guys. I like to be present. I try to listen to music as much as possible. I have a love for music, but I have a special love for painting and being able to get out my thoughts and my mind and stuff like that creatively. And I like to journal. Journal is important for me too, getting those thoughts that I might have stuck inside my head and putting them down somewhere so I can lay them to rest and say goodbye. But yeah, so take time to consider your strategies. If you guys think about it, if you just jot it down, whatever you do, think about your strategies for your balance. And yeah, I hope that you guys like this activity, and I hope you guys are able to find that balance within yourself too and write those strategies down. It's important for us to refer back to when we need a moment that we're struggling. Okay, what do I do? Okay, I see here that I smudge when I'm not feeling spiritually balanced. So let's smudge. Yeah, that's what I like to do. And then this is our Survey Monkey. So please, we encourage you guys from the bottom of our hearts to take our Survey Monkey. It helps us do better, right? We want to do better for you. We want to meet your needs. We want that feedback, right? Feedback is integral in the growth and development of a program. So please feel free. It's anonymous, even better. It takes like 2 minutes to do, not even. So either take a screenshot of this
30
or type
seconds.
this. Yeah, like 30
Sorry.
seconds.
Yeah, 30
Mhm.
seconds. Please
Exactly.
go click.
It's super easy, super fast. Type this in your browser, click it, screenshot it, do what you gotta do, but give us that feedback, please, and thank you. And these are our references. And Karina, these are the questions that we're gonna kind of ask people to think on when we part today.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Cody. I think we're just, gonna scroll through them just for you guys, for whoever is watching and listening. This is something that we invite you to think about and reflect on after a lot of information that we've been talking about, right? Those are the questions. So, for example, how can we apply, you apply what we've discussed today to make a positive impact in your daily routine? It kind of goes back to that Survey Monkey. So yeah, please
Yeah,
click on that. Yes, this one. Because we would like to know, right? Not just us specifically, me and Cody and myself, but also us as both agencies, Dnaagdawenmag, Binnoojiiyag, and CBHS, because this is important.
Perfect. So we don't have anyone today, but I hope if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, CATWOOD@binnoojiiyag.ca, but we'll find a way to link it in the description. Miigwech. I hope everyone enjoys their time, whether day or night, and we'll see you guys later. Adios.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.